This is it. Wake your nasty ass up. It's the communion. I got my brother today, Money Mark McCoy. What's going on with you, brethren?
Not much, bro.
Yeah.
Blessed and happy to be here.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, man. We here once again, man. Back like we never left. And we left like we were never coming back. But here we is, though, you know?
Back like I left my keys.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, man, we got a couple things going on in the headlines I had to get your opinion on, man. So, you know, we was gonna get into some other things, man. But the first things first, man. Did you are you familiar with the Charlie Kirk guy?
Vaguely.
Okay.
Vaguely. I've looked at some things, and since his passing, and normally I don't tap into like a lot of this politicized rhetoric, but I have looked at it vaguely, since his passing, and so yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with it.
I got a couple questions to ask. Well, see, here's the deal. We had a show set up a while back where I was going to address the likes of Charlie Kirk, Nick Fuentes, even Candace Owens, and there's a couple other people on the list who ain't even worth being named. But the point was they had a lot of questions about the black community, and in lieu of his passing or in lieu of his death and what happened, I just got a couple questions. I want to know: is the focus still on gang violence?
What do you mean?
I mean, Charlie Kirk had a lot to say
It's his focus,
about black on black crime.
right? And it's interesting, and it's not a new narrative, and it's something that the far right, the right, and then some moderates and the left. So a lot of people use that narrative, to describe what I would just say are outcomes of conditions, right? And so it's not surprising when I hear people still use that language. Is there some violence in our neighborhoods? Yeah, but that's an outcome of so many different factors.
Okay, so let me ask another question. Is it wrong for me to play into stereotypes and statistics as far as whites are concerned? Could I ask, why do y'all keep killing each other?
Could you ask whites that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could ask that.
Because 85% of white murders are done by white people.
So, and that's true for all crime, right?
That's true for all crime across the board.
First of all, crime is a proximity. So when you're talking about so if we're talking about heinous crimes, and again, I'll classify a lot of black crime in our inner cities as an outcome of created conditions. And I call those crimes of need. I can put them in a few different boxes. But when you're talking about heinous crimes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are the number one offenders of heinous crimes? Now, sometimes we get in these positions and there's a segment of the population, this is the way I always explain it, there's a segment of the population that operates by certain rules. They like to highlight that segment. They like to keep that narrative going, right? So that segment operates by certain rules, and if you're a part of that segment, then it can be a dangerous situation from you, but that's a very small percentage of people that operate by those rules. Now, when these conversations come about, you're led to believe that it's a larger percentage of people that, so we start talking about, we'll use broad terms like Chicago. You know how many black people live in Chicago? right? And then you know how many black people that are involved in the criminal justice system.
But
In some areas, it may be more or less, but it's going to be less than more. You're not going to go into any community and find the majority of any group involved in the criminal justice system. Ours is just highlighted because your and my blackness has been commodified over time. There's earnings built off of the narratives. There's careers, there's jobs, there's money, there's things that flow around the narrative of you being black and what that means to people. So to maintain those flows, you got to maintain that narrative, right?
I in no way condone violence for ideology.
Right.
That's just not where I get off.
Right.
And I did not celebrate this man's passing,
Nor any man's
passing in that way. That's just, we're not brutal, we're not barbarians. I understand the outrage from people who lost someone that they idolized. As growing up, we've lost people we idolize, so I'm getting the full perspective. But who he was, he said that he didn't believe in empathy and that he thought it was weak. So why would I mourn him? Also, shout out to Spider Loke and the great Tupac himself. I've heard this eloquently pointed. The line from Machiavelli, if we cry, did we cry when the Pope died? Should we cry when the Pope died? My request, we should cry if they cried when we buried Malcolm X. And we just lost the great Assata Shakur the day before yesterday. Rest in heaven to that beautiful queen. And really, we have to ask, do they mourn us the way we mourn them? So I think that holding us to a different standard as far as how we even understand or articulate this situation. You know, Malcolm was taken, and I didn't see the same outrage, but I didn't live through that. Like, that's different from another celebrity, but I was alive for Khalid Muhammad. I didn't see no, you know what I'm saying, or any of our black figures. They don't mourn us the same as they mourn others.
I'll take it from there, and I'll give you a chance to kind of recover. You know, when you talk about some of our prominent figures, right? You talk about Assata just passing. You can talk about some of our recent, these large personalities in our community, some of our entertainers, people we grew up with passing. Those people are celebrated, but when you see, so the protest comes from the far right. So I'm gonna talk to you again about percentages. And it's interesting because I had this conversation with my therapist, who's a white guy, right? And so we had this conversation, and we're just talking about, generally speaking. So again, you're going to create, so car crashes are very attractable. I don't care what color you are. If you see a car crash, when you pass it, you're going to look, right? And so tragedy, discord, dysfunction, those things are really attractive. And so those are the things that we're going to look at, right? But those things are, so we'll say it from a far right standpoint. The tragedy that and again, there's a lot of room in the middle, and I'm just saying, their tragedy is not going to resemble ours because they're so far away. And so when you say who's celebrating or who's mourning, that source that's the loudest, and that's that far end of the spectrum, it's the voice that you're going to hear, and it often overshadows those in the middle, and it works for both sides. And I'm talking about, just polarization in particular. And when I say car crashes, I'm saying negativity. So when you hear the negative speech, you're going to tune into that. Those are the things that are going to overshadow a lot of the positive. We're not going to give a lot of, and we are here tonight, and I hear it and I see it and I process it, but the majority of people aren't going to give a lot of, you're not going to give a lot of attention to the positive praise. So the guy walking the dog, if you will, versus the car crash where it's going to just grab your attention because it has a lot of an emotional appeal. And so when they're talking negatively, that negative connotation presents the same way. It's things that you know, if you got some basic psychology, you know how you attenuate to that negativity. So we'll hear those loud negative voices, but we won't hear the voices in between that are celebrating or maybe celebrating us. But our heroes are our own, and so I don't necessarily even get into what they're doing. And in terms of Charlie Kirk, any man, he's got kids and he's got a family. It's a tragedy for him to be taken away, from his kids and family. But I'll say this, and I'll be careful. No, I won't. I'll say what I feel. I'll say this, because he's such a skilled orator. We talked about this earlier, right? He is. He's really skilled orator. He knows how to pull things that are hard to defend with single retorts. And so when I say things are layered, so you're talking about layered things. And because I can control the crowd well, I'm not going to allow you to get into the layers of it. And most people can't get into the layers of the topics that they talk about. And so because of those things, he's a skilled orator. And he uses a lot of things, like we say, he'll say statistics, right? I had to ask him, where'd you draw those statistics from? Personally, if I'm there and I want to see them.
And continue. I was going to say, and the difference between facts and truth, too.
Right. And so your facts and your truths come from where? You can spew these things out because you know how to control the crowd. And I'll say, because you use that superpower, if you will, for negativity, it's not an edge, and it's tough, right? But when you spew negativity and you have bad energy, it begets bad energy, and it has nothing to do with us.
Nothing. I was going to point out the fact that it has
zero to do with us, and that's why it's hard for me to have these conversations. I hear what he's saying, and I can have a retort for everything that he says. Literally, I can, because there's a different side to that. There's a different way to look at these things he calls statistics. But when he wants to when he can control the narrative, because he speaks better than most, right? When he can control the narrative, it's hard to get those points across. And so separate the issues. It is tragic that a man was taken from his wife and kids. Objectively speaking, when you engage in that type of negativity and that rhetoric, you're going to bring that same energy back. And again, it has nothing to do with us. You don't see a black face. If you see a black face in this crowd, he's usually it's funny, except for the older black dude we watch, he kind of held his own, but he's usually over talking and using his tactics to drive in points to talk about why we are still in a condition that we know why we're in this condition, and there are a bunch of factors that contribute. So he'll make things like vacuum statements. And what I mean by that is he'll present things like they don't have influence. There isn't a behavior without an influence.
Indeed.
There's a push or a pull to get movement. Movement doesn't happen, generally speaking, on its own. And we can kind of go into some of the quantum stuff too.
Indeed.
And some of my stuff too. But there's a push or a pull on either side, and enough pushes and pulls, you get the conditions you want. So again, like he presents things like they are without influence. If we could go point for point, I would have loved to have done that with him. I would have had to prepare myself, right? I would have had to look at the history, and just looking at a few of the clips. Again, it's the same narrative. You're talking about the same things. You're talking about those same conditions, whether you're talking about black men not being in the household, if you're talking about black values with marriage,
Yeah.
if you're talking about
Black on black crime.
or black music, those are your perspectives.
DEI was a major thing for him as well.
Again, and that just so we can look at each one of those domains, and I can have a real good conversation, because nothing exists without influence. And because of the way things were structured over hundreds of years, the influencer from the top is Caucasian, the influencer, right? And so your influence is used to perpetuate the status quo of that top percentage of people, and then so there's a lot there. It just is. It's a lot there, and I'd be hard pressed. And I always say this: it's interesting, and I empathize with him, and not really him, but there are people who aren't as skilled in oration as he is, that believes what he's saying, but when they go home and they close their doors, they're subject to the same conditions in terms of survival that we are. And they like to blame us, and that's where the DEI and all that stuff come in, because it is hard for you, and you don't have a better explanation other than they're giving the jobs to blacks, or they're giving the jobs to gays, or they're giving the jobs to women, as to why you're suffering. And that top percent is creating all this calamity. And so that division is there. The divide and conquer piece is still there. We're fighting, and there's a small layer at the top that's just right.
I want to say a couple things.
It's interesting.
Number one, DEI affirmative action was created to counteract something. We've seen this in, give me the NFL for example, right? You have to at least interview a black coach before you hire a coach. This was because they were hiring no black coaches, not because they weren't qualified, not because that they weren't applying, because they simply were not getting the opportunity. And once they started to get the opportunity, thus you see so many competent black head coaches, it's ridiculous.
What would you say about the black quarterback?
Same thing.
Right?
Same thing.
And so now you're starting to see the results. You're starting to see the results of having diversity. It's a better game. There are some good white quarterbacks. There's a lot of good black quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I think performance, and so that performance equals making money, right? So that on the field performance. So this is something they couldn't get away from. You can still kind of mask it in hiring coaches. But on the field, the production equates to capital for these organizations. So if you're unproductive, then my bottom line decreases.
Absolutely.
And so talking heads or commentators, they used to try to do it, but now you see it shifting a little bit by minimizing a black quarterback's attributes to just being a runner or a
they move the goal line
scrambler.
completely.
Right.
Yeah.
But so now you start to see the different. So you see the runners and the scramblers, and you see a runner and a scrambler do it from the pocket, because we're getting more of us in, right? And so that performance, you can't mask that. You can't hide it. You can try to talk it away, but once you have so many high performers doing it so many different ways, now you just kind of blow that narrative up, and now the performance in and of itself, the merit of the performance, is what gets you that position. But for a while, it was hard for us to get in those positions, right, and to fill those spots, so that if you just got one or two, what's the chance of both of them are going to be super successful? Not very high. It really depends on where they land. But if you throw 10 of them in there, 3 or 4 are going to land in good spots. That's going to be conducive to their development, to their development as a player, character, man, all of those things, right? And then you're going to see that performance, and then that opens the door for more. And that's what's happening. It'll happen with coaching, right? And Glenn just got a job. When you look on the sidelines now, you're seeing a lot of brothers on the offensive side of the ball. Still, they try to isolate that for white males. But again, we'll bleed over into that as well. On the defensive side of the ball, you see a lot of our young coordinators are black. Calvin Seperate at Detroit, I love them. Right, I love them. But there's a Brian Flores. He's been a head coach, but he's a coordinator now. You can just look and see. But so it's happening, and then again, performance. Right, high performers are going to be equated to high capital, high gains. Your team perform well, you sell more tickets, you sell more merchandise,
Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, bro.
And Mike Tomlin, and he's a phenomenal coach, and he's with a phenomenal organization.
Yeah.
Right? He's one of those organizations where they understand, like, it's an objective look. And so it's not necessarily about being white or black in that organization. Otherwise, he would have been out of there.
Well, let me say this too, man, because a lot of people will just equate it to athletics, and I'll use apples for apples, because Charlie Kirk's argument was if he walks on a plane and sees a black pilot, he hopes that he can land the plane, or he hopes he can fly the plane. When for me, if I walk on a plane and I see a black staff or a black pilot, I'm completely comfortable, because I know what did this brother have to do to get up in there.
So that's the reverse side.
Yeah, that, like, as black people, we know you have to be twice as good, and you got to do it twice as long to even be considered anything. I mean, you can look at what's the movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. when he was trying to be the Men of Honor, man. Like, and there's so many other circumstances where we just have to be so excellent and come in and don't the Tuskegee Airmen. We just come in and save the day and don't get any credit for it at all until after we're dead and gone, or we can't enjoy it. I think that if you look at the brother Isaac Hayes III, shout out to him, shout out to his platform fan base. I think people should get platforms on that. Anyway, his pops on my wall too. The brother Isaac Hayes III had a dope post about Trump and how he named all these inventors, and how all the inventors that basically built America and their pride, every invention was made by a black person.
And those are the things they try to keep from you. And again, it can be a source of pride. It can be a connection to positivity. And again, so when you talk about the ills in our communities, when you talk about, and I have to do the numbers, I have to do percentages, and this is why when Charlie Kirk talks, I have deeper questions for his answers when he starts talking statistics, right? And so the things that ail our community, those things are an apparatus of control. So if you want to talk, so right now, the things that ail our community, the biggest thing that ails a percentage of people in our community, because I know some high functioning, and I know some areas, if you want to talk about Chicago as being, super violent. I mean, there's neighborhoods in that Atlanta, Georgia area that are all black, right? And they're all $1 million homes, right? And so there's
Detroit at one time was,
right,
Black Hollywood.
And in the inner city of Detroit, it's rough, but there's still a lot of high functioning.
It's beautiful, man. I love Detroit.
It is. There's a lot of us that are high functioning over. It's mostly us.
Yeah.
And so those ills affect a certain percentage, and those things are controlled. And we know what they are. And it's interesting because the point I was getting to, was having excellence to connect to. When you limit those connections and it's intentional, then you're gonna have a certain percentage of people that dysfunction that can't reach outside of those narratives, and then you're gonna just keep highlighting that. You're gonna keep highlighting that, dumping that, and that's perpetuating. The issue. But outside of that, there's still some high functioning. I mean, again, there's still some high functioning folk. Most of us are. We're gonna be high functioning. If I take this little percentage and I try to, and I blow it up, and there's a narrative around it, and you think all black people like, that's why I be saying, poor you. Like you really don't. You don't know.
You don't know. You don't know.
No, you're really an idiot, right? You really can't see beyond the information that's given, and that's one thing, that I give Trump credit for. I don't give him credit for much, but I say just highlighting the fact that news can be fake.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him that. 'Cause that's anti-establishment, and he does a lot of anti-establishment stuff, but he does it for the gain of people who look like him and the same tax bracket as him. So, I'll give him credit for that, saying fake news, because most of this stuff is a control apparatus, and it's used to perpetuate narratives. These narratives commodify your blackness in a sense, and you're able to build institution around some of the dysfunction. It's higher or lower in different places. So
Mm-hmm.
if you go to Chicago, if you go to Oakland, or inner cities, it's higher or lower, but it's not all inclusive. This narrative is not all inclusive.
I'm glad you went there, bro, because I got something to say. But so I want to end this segment with a couple questions. I want to point out first that, like I said, he died in Utah,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
In Utah, which is I just looked it up, 75 to 77% white,
Caucasian. Absolutely.
Right? And then we have to look at the person who took his life,
Mm-hmm.
and the person who took his life was not only a white man, but it was a pretty much his same demographic, if I can understand. I don't know. From what I hear, you understand what I'm saying. He wasn't
Outside of all the
liberal.
conspiracy stuff, and they want to say it's government, but it's still white on white. And
It was white on
still
white crime.
one of the most heinous crimes, and you are still the perpetuators most of the time of the most heinous crimes. Crimes fall under crimes of need. Da 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 da. Do you see? You rarely see.
So let me say this, man. I want to say that if he would have been in Chicago, or if he had been in a black community, that wouldn't have happened to him, because we would have wanted to debate him. We'd have did a lot of huffing and puffing and yelling and hollering, but we wouldn't have let nothing happen to that man in the black community. I don't believe that. I don't think that somebody would have came and did something to him because of how he was talking.
I often tell my colleagues this.
I don't believe that.
I often tell my colleagues this. So something comes up, and you know what I do. Something comes up, and it's in the 07, 49507 zip code. I often tell them this: you're safer there than me.
Oh yeah.
You're safer there than me.
And if you don't believe me, wake up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and look out your window and see if you don't see some white folks jogging.
You're safer there than me. Don't let the narratives fool you. And the reason why I say you're safer than me is because in some of the thicket of it, we are who we are.
I mean, like,
it's some bad people, black, white, and county strike. And so in some of the thicket of it, you and I are going to be looked at differently if we get into a space and we're not recognized and people don't know us. It can be confrontational versus a white face, and you have to be the police to be here. So I'm going to walk around you. I don't really want no smoke with you. And this is what I had to tell my right. So you're going to be safer if there is an element of crime and we're walking into it. You're likely going to get, especially in our community.
Oh, my dog's tripping. They do this every episode, man.
Sit down, man.
Go ahead.
You gotta make them part of it, man.
Yeah,
And they're supposed to be able to run through.
They do.
But
the
no, I
same
tell them
thing.
that all the time. And you know what? When I go to the rural communities, yeah, there's a lot of thought when I go to the rural community. So anyway,
Yeah, and like I said, I felt like that was a situation where even when we had nothing to do with it, they still canceled HBCUs the next day, and I'm like, we ain't even had nothing.
again, like
We didn't even do nothing.
for you, right? Nah, it's for you because they can show you who did it, and you. I don't even know. I don't even know what you do with the information to go into our communities and do those things, right? So what do you do with that information when it shows you who it was? How do you process that and make that out to be we should go and cancel, like you said, HBCUs or whatever they were doing, right? It's like, how do you do that? This is white on white crime.
This is what. So
I'm not laughing at it. I'm laughing at the notion that there's backlash against us when it's you versus you.
So here's my question: what's the difference between a drive-by shooter and a domestic terrorist? Right? Because they talk about mass killings, but we don't ever talk about serial killers. Right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between someone who will climb on a roof and somebody who will jump in a car? Right? And I just felt like that's something that nobody ever asked him and no one ever asked anyone, and we starting to get a bad rap for gang violence when we don't even shine a light on all the corruption that's going on in the system that hasn't even been addressed
Right.
to this day.
But you know that's intentional, right?
You know what I mean?
But that's why the conversation stays around that small percentage of the population, depending on where you at, more or less, that engage in those type of activities. It's not. There's people that live in all of these cities that are dangerous, millions of people, right? And the more people, the smaller that percentage. So, right, if it's 2 million people, that 2% of the people is going to be a larger number than if it's 1 million people. It's 2%, right? And so, but those small percentages in some of these. But the outside, so the thing is this: if it's only 2%, then what are the 98% doing?
Right.
Right. And what's happening is we get clumped into that 2%, and some people struggle day to day, but that don't mean they're criminals, right? Some people might struggle with alcoholism and da 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 da. So their standard of quality of living might be low, but that don't mean they're criminals. That means there's some other things that's going on in their life, and it happens in all communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a public setting or like at a parade or a festival or something, it's all about perspective. Do you fear more somebody breaking out and some black folks shooting, or do you fear somebody climbing up on something and knocking something down?
If it's us shooting, it's going to be a small segment of that population from that area in passing who have came in contact with each other, and there could be some collateral. Most of the time that's us. They come from that activity. It's a small percent that engage in that, and they get outside of their neighborhoods in the public and they cross paths and these things happen. Most of the time you're talking about the shooting at the church before the Charlie Kirk thing, when the kids, if you're talking about any mass shooting, it's not gonna be us. Right? And so again, and this is why I say, when you look at our crimes and the black on black thing, they are crimes of, I look at them as crimes of need. You're right. I look at them as, because we don't, and because so many things are kept out, and because so much energy is put into the negative to create these images, we don't have the necessary resources, and so we know how to go get it based on how we go get it. And that small percentage, and I'll always say that, because you can walk around in any city You can walk in and walk out and be fine. People go to sleep and wake up, go to work, raise the kids, right? And they're fine. The large majority of people, the larger percentage, the small percentage, if you engage in that activity, right, it's more detrimental in some places than others.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It just is. But again, to use a lot of his language, it's percentage. But you won't ever get into that, right? You won't get into how many, African Americans are graduating from these HBCUs, and if you want to talk about the quality of education, that's a whole other conversation, and we can get into that too.
Mm-hmm.
We can really get into that when you talk about the Harvard students and all of that. So now you're speaking my language, right? Because now we can talk about premises and what are you starting with, right? So if you start with something different than I start with, it's gonna look different at the end, right? And so we have to be able to agree on things like what intelligence is, what access to your systems grant you that we can't, and then we have to go apply in those same systems. But we don't have the access to those materials or resources that you have readily available to prepare us to apply in those same systems. It's not happenstance that we don't have these things. And then that's not a vacuum condition either. Us the not having, right? There's other factors that influence the not having. So these things are always layered. It's not one question, one answer.
Indeed.
There's always other things that you have to discuss because nothing exists in a vacuum. They're without push or pull. And in psychology, you master the human push and pull. The human brain is a fascinating thing. Human behavior is fascinating. And when you look at control of groups of people, they understand how to, I always say this, they drop a pebble in the pond and they watch the ripples. When I say they, I'm always talking about the top 1% because we're all subject to that percentage of the population wanting to maintain their status quo, and then there's a divide and conquer, and we be down here talking all this crazy shit, and they drop a pebble. Then we start talking this crazy shit, and then they sit up there and the things just keep going the way they're going at the time. And we're arguing about things that don't even matter. You're gonna go and close your door, and you're gonna be looking at your checking account, and you're gonna be, but they're giving you someone or some, so that's what they're giving you, someone to blame for it being so hard for you, and that someone recently is DEI, right? And who are the most beneficial DEI? They want to say it's us because they connected to affirmative action, but DEI, it's not just about color, it's about gender, it's about sexuality, right? It's about diversity, all in and of itself. So when you're giving those, so you're giving someone to point the finger at, and you're unable, for you, because you're unable to see that. And like Trump said about Biden, the puppet masters, and I say Trump did some things, I'm like, it blowing my mind. The puppet masters are controlling Biden, and he's talking about the 1%. They'll drop that pebble in the pond, and we'll go, and that's just not between black and white. That's within the white groups. That's within the black. There's but there's just so much discord that there can never be a consensus that this thin layer, that 1%, that lifestyle just continues to perpetuate. You talk about the Bilderbergs, you talk about the however you wanna, right?
Right.
And all these things are connected, right? So, and that's where I always say, and when I get hung up, I could talk about the minutia of what's happening, but the bigger picture is there's intent for it to happen.
Absolutely.
That's the bigger picture. Yeah. It's not just happening over and over again. Why are we still in this condition? Because there's steady influences to keep a percentage of us in these conditions.
Plausible deniability is some hoe shit. I always say this: plausible deniability is you understand, but you can, wipe your hands clean, or you can move your hands and not really. I mean, nobody wants to take ownership of anything, but we understand things a bit differently. I want to end this little segment with saying that we don't celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk. We don't celebrate what happened. We don't think that that's the way to go about things. But isn't it ironic? Like the Alanis Morissette joint. Isn't it ironic? We understand it for what it is.
From an
we get it.
objective standpoint. So when your energy is about negativity, expect it to get back. You give it back to you in a negative fashion. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that it would have did him good to have some black friends.
Yeah, he would have learned a lot. He would have had some insight into what he considers black values, other than the created narrative that's pushed. He said it. I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
So that means your only experience is from media, and we know how media portrays us.
Yeah.
He had one good point. He said it's 50%, and I'm starting to notice this. 50% of commercials there's black faces in, and you're talking about advertising. And the reason why the black faces are in there is for
so we
spending
can buy
dollar
it. So they want our money,
right? It's not. There's no DEI quota in them putting us in there.
They know we're the big spenders, so they want.
We got the highest spending power, right? You can pull it up right now. And that's why I love AI too. You always got to check your sources. So remember, you use AI. Look at the sources. Always look at the sources. But what I find is that it's brilliant. But if you use AI, you can see what our spending power is right now. So how much money back can we spend? You ain't got to go through a bunch of websites that's going to rip it all together for you. Shoot.
Yeah.
You got a question about it, then look at the sources it presents. But yeah, we're there because of spending power, not DEI. You idiot. Nobody. Those aren't real actor jobs. That's not a good. So can it be a foot in the door? Yes. Yes. But it's spending power. So again, there's one of those things that I say that we want to sit down and have a conversation
And I mean, this is not to offend any of our white counterparts, because I got some people in my family, some people that are close, dear friends that we love, who we don't share the same pigment. You know what I mean? But we are closer than family. You know what I'm saying? So we ain't never gonna go out on a limb and say all of this, all of that, because that's not how we roll. We just want to. Nothing is all inclusive.
And if you hear everything I'm saying there's percentages, because nothing is all inclusive. You can't say all this or all that. You can skew what that percentage looks like, right? By how much energy you put into a created narrative. So now people may think, but that's not the case, right? And it goes for, like you said, I'm the same way. I love people. I love life.
Yeah, I just want to preach responsibility with this conversation, but I wanted to put my insight out here so people got it. And if I offended anybody, I apologize, because that wasn't the goal to make light of anything. But I did want to address some things, and if you got something to say, you can holler at me in the comments and whatever. And we'll be sure to address it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I want to get to this next topic, which is this Terence Crawford fight, man. Like,
Bud,
my man Bud, man. Why do y'all keep doubting Bud, man? Like, listen, we had 2 lotteries as black folks, and we missed them both. Errol Spence, Canelo Alvarez. The odds was right. They didn't think Bud could do it. You'll never have odds like this again.
I hear you.
I mean, it's not gonna happen in a while. We knew Bud was gonna win. If you know boxing, I knew. I said, oh man, I told my wife, I was sick. I said,
I don't really gamble, as I'll put $5-10 on the Lions, you know what I mean, however I work it, but I don't really gamble as much. I was unaware that the odds, because I had this conversation with a few people who I thought was going to win. I stated Bud was going to win, and here's why. And I was firm in that. And this is not hindsight. I can say exactly why I thought he was going to win, and it proved to be that.
Yeah.
But I don't do the gambling thing, and I missed my boat.
I was gonna put a small bag on it both times. I told my wife, I said I was gonna do it, and I didn't do it. And then I kicked my. Well, no, the talking heads didn't talk me out of it. I'm be honest with you. A couple bills talked me out of it. I had a couple things to do, and I had a choice to make, and I was like, I gotta be responsible. And it kicked me, and I looked at my wife. I said, "Yo, baby, we should have did that. This not gonna happen again." And then when they signed the Canelo fight, I told her, I said, "Yo, it's gonna happen. We gotta do it. I talked to my way up to it, and then fight night, I downloaded the app and didn't do it, and watched it and said to myself, "This is going exactly how I knew it was going to go."
Too skilled.
I should have put this down.
Too skilled.
To everything, man. Shout out to Bud, man. If you ever get this, man, like you shot up not only the pound for pound rankings, but you shot up a lot of people's personal list. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm from we in Grand Rapids, Michigan right now, so it ain't no higher than Floyd to me.
I was gonna say, don't you dare.
Yeah, we ain't gonna do that.
Don't you dare.
So my all-time list go Ali, because that's what my daddy put me on. That was my introduction to it.
I'd agree.
You know what I'm saying? Floyd Mayweather.
I'd say Cassius Marcellus.
Cassius Marcellus Clay. You see him all over my wall. Like
he's like Jordan in the 80s. Cassius Marcellus.
I don't.
The 80s Jordan.
I don't see nobody better than Ali.
Yeah, no. I agree.
And then for number 2, you gotta give me Littles. You gotta give me, Money. Pretty Boy. We call him Lil Floyd, and right, whatever you want to call him, you ain't seen nothing better than him. Quit playing, man. Quit playing.
Interesting, a lot of people grew up with Floyd, around Floyd, same elementary, same middle school, same neighborhood, same age group. Floyd a year younger than me.
Yeah.
Same elementary, right? Brush shoulders with him, and it's so funny because sometimes when I used to be watching him fight, you could see that some of those old tendencies, like me and Floyd, because I was big bro, I'm bigger, and Floyd has always been a little guy, and he was younger than us, so we never really had no interactions. Like with a lot of my closest friends, we fought at least once. Like a lot of them, we fought when we were kids, and I can just see when I watch Floyd fight some of those same instincts.
Yeah.
Those kid instincts, even from his facial expressions to his body.
You see that Grand Rapids.
I can see it, and it's so eerie. But he's definitely my number 2.
He's my number 2
as well.
I want to say Bud jumped ahead of Roy Jones and Mike Tyson on my list, man. And Roy, my guy, bro. Like Roy, I was hurt when Roy got knocked. Like Roy is my guy. You gotta understand.
So let's separate.
Roy, my guy.
Let's separate the issues. And like I said earlier, Tupac is my GOAT, but Nas is the greatest rapper of all time.
Okay.
Floyd is my number 2 GOAT. But in terms of being a fighter, some of the best punch throwers, some of the best technicians, some of the best. There's only 2, and we say Muhammad Ali, and I have to back you up to Cassius Clay, because Cassius Clay was 80s Jordan.
Yeah.
Roy Jones, prime Roy Jones was 80s Jordan.
Quit playing with him, man.
I've never seen anybody outside of Cassius Marcellus Clay
do that.
Be able to, right before he went up, and gained all that weight to fight Ruiz, and then try to drop all that weight down, and all that shit affected him, physiologically. I didn't see a better offensive. I had to put like Ray Leonard in that category too.
Yeah.
I'd put Ray Leonard in that category, and Cassius Marcellus, Roy Jones Jr., Roy and Sugar. And for me, it's Roy. I watched Sugar as a kid.
Yeah.
I watched Sugar Ray. Like your dad, my dad. I was around for Sugar Ray. I was around for Marvin Hagler. I was around for Tommy Hearns. I was around for Roberto Duran. I was around for all of these guys.
Chavez. That was what was on TV.
I was around for Pernell Whitaker. I was around for a lot of these guys. And to me, offensive fighters put hands on you, whoop your ass. There's nobody. Cassius Marcellus. Mm-hmm. And I'm only saying that because when it came to Muhammad Ali, there's a lot of things that happened. Yeah. He was still great, but Cassius was like 80s Jordan. There's no better.
We understand exactly what you mean, bro. You can't get no more elaborate than that. Yeah,
right. And so Roy was 80s Jordan to me too. And I just watched him, and I was like you. One of my favorite guys, man. I was hurt when he
hurt, man.
He took those losses, and he tarnished himself a bit by being so overzealous and thinking that, or being unaware how that weight loss was going to affect him, because he looked dry. He just looked right. That wasn't the Roy we knew for the Tiger fight. But I would agree with you. So you said Cassius Marcellus, Floyd.
Bud jumped up there to number 3, man.
Yeah,
Bud jumped up, and you have to give him his credit because number 1, they was ducking him for years. That he was fighting guys because he had to, and not necessarily fighting the guy. Like Pacquiao should have been fought him. There's a couple guys who could have been fought Bud, and they didn't fight him because
the writing was on the wall.
The writing was on the wall, man. So you got to give him credit for that. You got to give him credit for jumping up weight classes, and everybody's already overstated his accomplishments. But the thing that I love about Bud is he's a dog. He's a technical aficionado. But when things go out the window, I can just scrap. I'm just gonna sit here and I can scrap with you. And then when they tell him, "Hey, Bud, you down around?" or "Bud, you got to get one," man, he's the most dangerous closer probably in the history of the sport, man.
Let me take this real quick, and I want to take this on. I want to take this on air. So do what you need to do. Let me take this real quick.
Yeah.
This my nephew.
An inmate entered the shipping department of corrections, Muskegon Correctional Facility. If you feel you're being victimized or extorted by this prisoner, please contact GTL customer service at 855-466-2832. To accept this call, press 0. To repeat
And he called me earlier, so I almost got to take it because I'm missing it. Look, I told him we would have some conversations, and we're having a conversation. So let's see if he wants to chime in on some
Absolutely.
Our conversation.
Yeah.
And he in that lane.
Thank you for using GTL.
Nephew.
Put him up to the mic, bro.
Oh, I'm well, Neff. I'm well.
Yeah, put him up to the mic.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. So look. So right now I am at. I don't know if you remember John. You probably do. My boy John Lamar. Anyway, we are live doing a podcast right now.
All right.
And I got you close to the speaker, and it's just ironic that you called me because I talked to you about these situations, right? I talked to you about just some of the things that was happening, and some of what the visions was, and I love to get your take on some of these conversations we're having.
All right.
So just listen in and just chime in, just like you hear. You know what I mean? Just for the viewers.
Yeah, appreciate having you, bro. Tell the audience your name, man.
All right. My government name is McCoy. First name McCoy, MARQA. Last name McCoy. I go by Supreme P.
Okay.
That name comes from the entertainment company that I own, Supreme P Entertainment.
Yeah, peace to you, bro. Appreciate you coming through, man.
Yeah. So we're just doing a freestyle pretty much, and after we was talking about some boxing stuff, but we can get on whatever you want to get on. Because
talking about what?
We're just talking about boxing.
The Terence Crawford situation, man.
Yeah, and before that, we was talking about Charlie Kirk.
Boxing and what else is kind of hard for you to hear some noise around that.
Okay, Charlie Kirk.
Okay.
I don't know if you know much about Charlie Kirk. I just, I neglected to dive into him because I don't really do. Like I don't consider him, and I don't consider anybody an enemy. Like I used to study what I thought was the enemy until, right, you present that way, but I had to back it up and say, poor you, because you don't understand the structure, or you don't understand the capacity, you don't understand how conditioned you are to thinking a certain way, and you can't think outside that box. And I always say, poor you. And that's kind of how I look at anybody who's got narrow or one-sided, and they're so strong and dug in opinions. And so I just say, again, like this is, we want to make sure that we politically correct. We don't want to bash anybody. And so objectively speaking, like I say, if you're somebody who was one-sided, if it's far left or far right, poor you, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
all right. I want to say something about somebody that's basically, you know what I'm saying, like put in the box how you was explaining.
Okay.
If you consider yourself one thing, or like, you know what I'm saying. Me personally, a lot of people, they look at me weird because I'm a young black man, 31 years old, and I don't consider myself a conservative or a Democrat or a Republican, but I do have many more conservative views than I do Democratic views. You know what I'm saying? But whenever you only go with one side, you've basically been indoctrinated.
right.
So if a person say, "Oh, I'm this," or "I'm that," or "I'm this," or "I'm that," you know what I'm saying? A lot of times you've been indoctrinated. Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, you know what I'm saying? What I learned, I'm currently in prison. What I learned is that the best way to be is open-minded, because the universe is constantly changing. People are constantly growing. Things are constantly advancing.
That's
and
right.
I'm around all different type of, you know what I'm saying, people would consider the people that I'm around to be animals. You know what I'm saying? And some of them do got beast-style ways. But one thing being in prison has taught me to do is be more intellectual. And one thing that I learned while being in here is that it's not the biggest or the strongest animal that survives, it's the animal that can adapt the fastest. So for instance, a lion is the king of the jungle, the shark is the king of the sea. But if you put the shark on land, it can't survive no more. If you put the lion in the water, it can't survive no more. So you gotta basically, whatever your situation is in life, you gotta adapt to it fast. And you were talking about boxing. Life is a fight, you know what I'm saying? But the biggest fight is gonna be the mental battle. You know what I'm saying? I got family that love me. My uncle Halisi Mark, he been here with me throughout the way. My grandmother been here with me throughout the way. My father been here with me throughout the way. My other uncles, my mother, a bunch of my family, they been here with me throughout the way. So many more people that I haven't named. But the biggest thing that I learned is that just to stay strong mentally. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a fight. Every day getting up, it's a fight. And basically, you can tell how good a person is going to survive based off of what they foundation is. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking at any structure, whether it's a human, whether it's a person, whether it's a corporation, an entity, whatever it is, you got to look at the structure. You got to look at what they believe in, and you got to look at how much they believe in it. A person can say that they believe in something, but you would tell by their actions, by how much conviction they got towards what they say, if they believe in it or not. So
Yeah.
That's just what I get from it. And I heard about the Kirk guy. I mean, the Kirk guy, the Charlie Kirk, the guy that was assassinated. And what I get from that is basically in here, I just rode into this prison. I've been in this prison I was in McCoy prison. I got transferred to Muskegon prison. I've been in this prison for about not even a week, barely a week, not even 2 weeks, a week and a half, around that. When I rode in, they did a strip search on me, and when they strip searched me, they had the cameras on. And when they had the cameras on, they not supposed to strip search you with their body cameras on. You know what I'm saying? They never supposed to see you naked on camera. That's against their rules and regulations. But I spoke up against it, and I won my first lawsuit this year for speaking up against the stuff they do to us in prison. And I won that on my own without a lawyer. But whatever you doing, whenever you speaking, you gonna have people that are on your side, and then you're gonna have people that ain't on your side. But I love to speak because it shows me who I'm around. If I come in a room and I don't speak, it shows me a lot too. Sometimes it's good not to speak, but a lot of times it is good to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's basically all I gotta say about what y'all said so far.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. It wasn't, really put you on the spot, but you called. Like I've been telling you, how long you been down?
I've been down since February 18th, 2014.
Right, so you've been down about 11, almost 12 years. And so this is one thing that I've been telling him, is how much he's grown. It's interesting when you get a chance to reflect, right? It's interesting when you just get a chance to slow things down. And this dude is one of the strongest dudes I know, and I don't put the onus on him to make us comfortable, but I tell him how much it means when he calls me and I talk to him, that he's projecting strength. I tell him how much that means to his grandmother, and I always try to give him the opportunity to say I'm struggling, and he will say that, right? He'll say that from time to time. But just mastering his environment, his growth has been tremendous. And I think, a lot of times we forget, we get caught up in the race, and everything is about growth. And so the more your understanding grows, the more you can kind of encompass, you can take in things without having reaction and responses, and things that kind of to offset you. The more your growth and your understanding is. And so from a mental standpoint, I think my nephew, and I don't even want to speak about, right, how much time and all of that. If you know him, you know. But I'm so amazed that he's grown into the person he's grown into, and he's an advocate. Like I told him, you're there to advocate, and so he been, when they don't follow policy and procedure, he can articulate why, right? He can tell them, hey, this is your policy, this is your procedure. Here's how you didn't follow it, and that's how he wins his suits. And like I told him, you're with the extreme marginalized. They gotta have a voice.
Absolutely.
And you're there, and if God put that on you, then let's keep building in that capacity. And he's building financially, like I talked to him about. He's increased my financial literacy.
Dope.
You know what I mean? Like I tell him, keep diving in, nephew, because I'm strapped out here. My workbench, right? My mental workbench, the area of the brain that you use to juggle and process things is full most of the time. I need him, right? Just like he needs me, and so we kind of work in team. But I'm so proud of you, nephew, for being, like I said, just your growth, man, and your strength. So, anyway,
no doubt. I wanted. We was talking about the Terence Crawford. Go ahead.
John gonna ask a question, and then we'll kind of go around and we'll get our take. Let me know if you can't hear what he's saying.
I speak up. So right before the phone call, we were talking about the Terence Crawford fight. We were getting into it. And we were just talking about his Terence Crawford and his fight and his legacy in boxing history after his win. But I was also thinking, I had a theory, right? I was thinking about us as a collective and how we missed opportunity, right? Do you remember in the movie Harlem Nights, the scheme that they did to get away with the money? It was genius, and I don't hear us speaking about it enough. But we know as consumers, we control markets, right? So what would have been smart to do would have been, as soon as the fight was announced, us as a collective, the black delegation, should have put $10 down on Canelo. Boom, 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 boom. Got him real hot. They'd have thought, hey man, this brother, they don't think that brother gonna win. So the odds would have been skewed, and then we should have doubled down on Bud fight night. You know what I mean? And broke the bank. We'd have walked away, but we don't think like that as a collective, and they know that.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer, man.
Divide and conquer. And some of my issues, and nephew, your time is slowly ticking, and so I'll let you have this last word because you got like a minute in. But that's the biggest. When I say intra fighting, we're divided as well, and not just split by race. Then within a black race, we're split by whatever faction or tribe,
everything else,
and then we argue about it. Right. So we can't ever get to anything like a consensus on, making the bet loaded. We can't ever get to that. Anyway, 50 seconds, nephew. 45.
All right. Well, one thing I'm gonna say is, you know what I'm saying? He talked about opportunities, man. It's an acronym for POUR that I got, which is passing over opportunities repeatedly. You know, if you don't want to be poor, you need to position yourself to capture an opportunity. It could be simple things. You know what I'm saying? People look at something, the big things, and they think that I gotta.
You have 1 minute remaining.
They don't look at the small steps that it takes to get there. You know what I'm saying? So just look at the small steps that it takes to get wherever you want to go, and take them steps. And that's basically all I gotta say right now.
Shout out to you.
what else was said?
Neff, you ain't gotta get it all in right now, Neff. You ain't gotta get it all in right now. We'll schedule something. Like I said, we just. We freestyling today, and it was great you called, and I had to answer because I missed you earlier, so it just all fit. But we'll get it in. We'll talk about it some more. It's nice to have you on. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, anybody out there going through anything, man, keep faith, man. Keep hope. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter what you go through. It don't matter where you at in life. You know what I'm saying? You can prevail, and you can make.
Thank you for using GTL.
Yeah, hold your head, nephew. Yeah, that was live. You know what I mean?
That's real life. And like I tell people, in the seat I'm in right now, which I just had 2 weeks off, and I had a lot of reflection. But I tell people I come from, and when I say people, my colleagues. I'm an 07 guy, and 07, 4950 has a designation within a department. Now, I won't even speak about that because it's not relevant, but I tell them I'm an 07 guy, and so I got a lot of that in my history. But don't you ever be fooled by the narrative. Sit down with me, right? Sit down with me, and at this point, I'm moving. Words are being heard. My ideas are being processed internally. Action is being done off of some ideas. It's a super interesting situation. Leadership changes happen, and then that's more or less, right, based on who the leader at the top is. Right, that movement that I'm getting is more or less, but it's just interesting. But again, within that frame of what I do, I get a chance to breathe on people about where I come from, right? What I've been through personally, my family's been through, and we all share that. I can articulate it well, and I take pride in being able to do that. And so it's super interesting to be able to share some of that stuff with people who aren't where we're from, and get them some understanding. Right? I put that on my back.
Mm-hmm.
I put that on my back because there's more. Because I can say it well, right? There's some people who can't say it well, but are doing it, and they need to be, they need their flowers, they need their stories known, and that just starts to push back on that narrative. It starts to condense it more. Then that's just my thought, because I'm able to, and I can share with, and know it's not an all everything or all anything. And don't you ever be confused by that. If that's your premise, if you can't think outside of it's all,
yeah, you miss it.
We can't. It's hard for. I'm gonna have to sit down with you and get you to understand those pieces before we can have any further conversation. You can't say it's not all any. If you're gonna sit back and spew things, and the way you format it makes it feel like it's all inclusive, your statements are, right? If you're gonna have those type of, and then they're of a negative or positive, right? It's not all negative, all, we ain't all nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We're everything. We run the gamut. And as all races and cultures do.
Indeed.
So yeah, it's super interesting. Love my nephew. And thank you for allowing him to share his voice.
Yeah.
He's right now. He on right like now.
Mm-hmm.
We've made probably his month.
Yeah.
Because he got a chance to get his voice heard by just me and him. Right.
He out there.
You're right.
Yeah.
Super interesting though.
Yeah, and he's an intelligent dude too, man. So we're gonna have to reach out to him and really establish another conversation. I wanted to move on a bit before you get up out of here. I gotta talk to you about the singer David in that situation. For those of the audience who don't know, David is a singer. He's a very talented singer. I don't know if you can call him a rapper. That's some singing. Some super creepy ass songs. Super creepy ass songs. Recently, a 13-year-old girl or 15-year-old girl, now she was 13 at the time of being reported missing, was found in the trunk of his vehicle, in separate bags. You know what I'm saying? She had been brutally dismembered. And David, I think you a fucking sicko, man. Yeah, listen. No, wait a second. Listen, I ain't gonna say he did it, but he did it. He did that shit.
And
yeah.
It was a lot coming at me, and I'm hearing arguments that are made. And one thing that I like to do is separate the issues. And so, when you're in that light, like, it's interesting how we put people on pedestals and we assign certain attributes and we don't assign attributes. It's interesting what we do with it. Then we're shocked and or appalled when things happen. So I say all that to say this. To function like that, to take somebody's life on those levels, on that like relationship level, it's some different. It's different, and so I'm saying that he's kind of he's one of those. I don't have any empathy for people who can just take life like that. Again, like
You release
outside of-
songs on this girl birthday.
I don't even get it. Like, I mean, it's not because you can't understand. It's hard to understand sociopaths, psychopaths, and that's what I was leading to.
Yeah.
And I had to pause a few times because, like, I don't want to, but I have to characterize it.
Is it psychopathy, or is he a
Yeah.
sociopath, or is it? I mean, can you be a combination?
Could be a combination of.
A sociopath and a psychopath, or are you one or the other? This is your expertise, so you.
I think. I mean, no, there is no. Again, there's nothing that's all inclusive. So when you see disorders, they often blend. They'll share symptoms. So yes, you can be all of those things that they label you as, because you don't have those basic components, right? You can't empathize. There's no care component. And it's just interesting. Again, like I said, we assign all these attributes to people and we think they're such great people, and we're surprised when these type of things happen. I always go back to, man, what was happening, right? And when were some of these things? Because you don't just go into, and if he killed her and went and did a show and been doing shows, that just says something about what he can do with that type of information, right? Often when you hear things or you hear bad things, you got to be able to put it away, or you do some bullshit, you got to be able to put it away. People who can put it away like that and then go on and function day to day without showing us any signs.
Yeah, you a fucked up person.
So before that happened, what was happening? Because that would have shown. So before this killing, that's why I say I often go to that because of the aftermath, the events after, and it's just because most of us would fall apart. You wouldn't be able to stand if you're a normal person, and you did some shit like that, and you got a lot of. And you deal with empathy and compassion and those different emotions, you're not gonna sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be in the corner somewhere balled up. There's a lot of brothers that we done grew up with that can tell you. This is why I say crime and need. Those things exist, but we get caught in these trains of thought. This small percentage of us, and we go at each other. But you know it like I know it. Some brothers in the kitchen, they get in front of the judge, they fall apart. Oh, they be at home and they tell you. And I've had this conversation. Stomachs. Because they have those components that this guy don't possess, and he showed you that with the aftermath, his actions after it happened. Mm-hmm. So what was happening before that is where my mind goes. Like, damn, this dude, like that's like some serial shit. Because you went and did shows after that, and you did it, and then you wrote songs, right? Like describing, like that's sociopathic behavior.
Or maybe before,
right?
Which is. Just as Ricky,
and then you act it out, then you perform it out. And that's the level of
the caskets at the concerts, the pre-signing. It's so
like I said, there was a lot coming at me, and I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah,
because I looked at it a little bit, and again, just for me, where I'm at now, my spirit, I won't allow me to take on a lot of negativity.
Mm-hmm.
It just, and I'll say this because of what I do, my cup probably runs over. So outside of what I do, I don't take in a lot of and then just the media narratives and all that stuff. I just prefer not to. I got my sources I go to, but I try not to take in a lot of negativity. And so I miss that. But again, just watching the way it played out, and like you say, and you're my brother, so I rely on your opinion on this. And if you have a feeling, I know you do your research.
Oh, yeah.
I know who you are. You're not gonna make a rash statement, judgment, or have a rash opinion without having researched what you're talking about. Most of the time, like we'll have responses.
Right.
But again, I'm riding with you, and I'm saying, yeah, no, that brother was.
Disturbed, man. Disturbed, highly disturbed. And I mean the fact that you haven't came out and said anything, or I haven't heard him say anything about it, is disturbing. Because
he's probably got a good lawyer too, right? Because there is nothing to say if you're being accused from a law standpoint.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So
all right.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Gotta have somebody's telling him, hey, keep your mouth shut. right? And that's good lawyering. That's good.
Well,
That's good. Attorney advice.
There's a couple different facets of this story that I want to attack. The number one, and we're experiencing some things in our community as of recently that I'm not really gonna speak on, but I'm gonna say this, man. If you like young people, and let me rephrase. How can we put this? If you are preying or a predator on young people, that girl was 12 when this man was 17. You foul, bro, and you 5 years later, or however long later, this girl. No, excuse me. So now he's what, 20? The girl was 15.
He's 20 and she's 15.
20 and 15,
right?
man.
I heard. She's 15 and he's 20.
My daughter is 14. She'll be 15 in a couple months, man. Like, and this girl was missing from a year. She was found with this guy, man. Like, I'm not gonna tell you what I would have did, but I'd have found my baby. And I know that there are some people who are going through some tough situations with kids, bad situations, running away, so on and so forth. But
that happens, man.
This part is tough because you got people who prey on young people, and he had an opportunity to take this person in, and we've seen him with her in the videos, and then they got the receipts on the internet. And I just think that if you touch children, or if you are grooming children, it should be special situations set up for you. That's how I'm gonna put that.
Yeah, no. And shout out to my boy Gil Lake, because we got a special treatment for those. So that's also the equivalent of you drive-by shooter, small percentage of our population.
Mm-hmm.
Small. A lot of us don't even know that. You just hear word of mouth. But so that's the equivalent of you drive-by shooter seeing somebody in traffic, pulling up to the light, and say there's a car in between you and the person that we'll say your ops that they use now, and you just shoot through the cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same behavior. And I said shout out to my boy Gil Lake, because we got a special place for people who don't have any type of morality or rules. So that's what's missing a lot. Like, we operate on morality and rules. Different story. But if you don't have that, if you're gonna put women and kids in harm's way, whether you're shooting or you're molesting or you're kidnapping or raping,
most of them words might get bleeped out, but yeah,
I have a place for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a place for you. If you're harming children or women in any way, I have a place for you. If you are someone who doesn't have a code or moral, meaning that if you're functioning, and we know what functioning looks like, and it's different now. I don't even know if they do. But if you can't keep it between y'all and you indiscriminately putting people in harm's way, I got a place for you.
Yeah.
I just do.
You gotta listen to Kendrick's song. What was he talking about? It slipped my mind right now. I listen to it every day. How could it slip my mind when he's talking about seeing all the that had the black Air Forces on it. You heard the black Air Force freestyle, didn't you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you hear that afterwards, man. He said,
but I've heard what people say about Black Air Force One, and I don't really get the parody. I have Black Air Force One.
He was talking about getting rid of all the predators in the black community. He's watching the party die. Is the name of the song. I think I'm ready to watch the party die. He killed that.
I stand with him because most of the time there isn't there's no cure for you. And when you move in that fashion, right? There is no me explaining to you why that's not appropriate. There is none of that. I can't. You haven't stolen. You've stolen a lot. You've
stolen.
If you have victimized a child or a woman in any way, shape, or form, you've stolen a lot.
Yeah.
Right? You've stolen a lot. You've stolen innocence and da 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 da. So I can't explain it to you why that's important if you don't know that. So I have to put you in a box, right? and I have to put you over here in the square. You're one of those, and there's a U-Haul for you, and in the back of the U-Haul there's a disco ball. There's music playing.
Don't even do it. Don't even do it. We talk about this all the time. Don't even do it. That's not for the public. Y'all go, hey.
So, yeah.
The U-Haul goes to Never Never Land, man. Don't even do it, bro.
So there's quite a few of them. It looks nice in there. Yeah.
You got chicken and music in there. You got it's popping. Get up in here.
Dildos in there. Little drinks up there.
Yeah.
Jingle a little bit.
Chill out.
Clink, clink.
Get up in here.
I ain't even gotta tell you to get in. You gonna get in.
You gonna get in.
You just gonna get in. So you ain't gonna think about it. Oh shit. Put some of that theme.
Hey man, if Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes said that, we'd be upset.
Yeah, we would.
But it's the truth, man.
But I can also provide the same conditions for, and I just speak to how I know to pull what I think. Like I said, we describe those people who don't have those moral into a space. We could use, right? And I could really mess it up. But I won't, because we know some of the things that ail different cultures, and I could pull from those and create that same condition. So it's not just. So if you were just being singular in terms of talking about a specific race, but I'm never going to do that.
No, it's all the way across the demographic, man. It's all the way across the board.
And it's only percentages of people. It's not going to be a lot. It will depend on where I go, right? Because again, the population volume is going to increase that small percentage number. So it's going to be some places where I'm going to need a few. Yeah, you have to rent a few trucks too. Let's get about 4 or 5 of them a piece.
Yeah. So let me say this too, man, about this David situation, or the greater situation behind it. Y'all killed R&B music, man. Y'all killed our music, and I'm gonna let you know where I'm going with this. So, each generation previous to these young ones, my mother and father, all the way up into us. I mean, even my grandparents, really, they had jams, but we had soul music. So when you got people like Charlie Kirk asking about the music and why the music changed, it was a systematic play, and we watched it happen before our very eyes. But not only did we have socially conscious hip-hop, we also had R&B to slow the party down. So a lot of situations never happened in our generation because of you was running to the dance floor trying to get you a jam, man. And we can think about, Mary J. Blige, who was considered the queen of hip hop. We can consider that, that Jagged Edge record, or that Usher record, or, you name it. For the girls, they was listening to, back in the day, it was Escape and Aaliyah. Then it moved into from Missy Elliott to Monica. We had R&B to counteract the hip hop. You know what I'm saying? We had Jodeci, we had Mint Condition, all the way back up into the Temptations. That's not to say that
to counteract the narrative created hip hop. But go ahead.
I'm not even saying because we love hip hop, but even on the Wu-Tang album, Wu-Tang Forever, the last joint, they like, man, we got to slow this party down, man. To us, we got our jams.
You're 1,000 to counteract the.
We wasn't hard all the time. Pause. Our jams was set up for the last 45 minutes. They running that spin of R&B, and you gotta find one. You better get you one. Find one.
Yeah.
If you was lame, you was trying to get up on your game, you could do something. You better find one later at the party. But that was a part of our culture, man. And now our culture is set up on. It's so morbid. It's so set up on I mean, not just deaf culture, money culture, drug culture. I be talking to artists like, yo, man, I want to hear you rap about something different. I want to hear you rap, be profound. You know what I mean?
But you got to remember this, right? And I talked to you about, I'll just say human behavior. And you have to remember this. It's highly predictable. And then you have to understand that the mechanisms, the brain mechanisms that they attack perpetuate what you're talking about, right? And I'll just say this, and you have to be able to expand on this thought, and a lot of people can't. But proximity breeds liking. So the ugly girl you grew up to next door, and nobody's really ugly, we're all beautiful. But the ugly girl you grew up to next door, the longer you lived by her, the more you liked her, because that was all that was really presented to you, or that's what you have close contact with. And so what's presented from a musical standpoint is what we have more contact with, and it has a perpetual nature. And so I, as artists, know that my chances are better if I present this way. I don't even have to be that way, right? But if I present this way, then I know that I think, again, everybody can't think outside that loop. We're able to do that. And so there's an element that exists that doesn't get the fanfare. The element hip-hop, and you're right. And so hip-hop has killed R&B, hip-hop has killed backpack rap, hip-hop, you understand? And so backpack rap is part of hip-hop. That's kind of, it's not the right way to say that, but the predominant hip-hop, the things that you're closest to, the things that are presented by the control apparatus, the labels, the radios, right, are those things that perpetuate a narrative. And within that narrative perpetuation, the artists that plug in and want to be a part of the system understand and are most likely not going to go against the grain of what it looks like to be an artist. So I'm not going to come in with my backpack if I got to come in with my gas and my straps. I'm not going to do it. Now you'll have a percentage that stands on that, but they won't get the publicity. They won't get the mainstream, right? And again, as we talked about going back to the late 80s, when we had the African medallions, when we was Public Enemy, and then we was the S1Ws, and they was the soldiers, and they was moving in unison. We was building that. That was permeating that whole thing, and they saw that.
The X hats, you know.
The X hats. They
Fubu.
saw that. That whole condition, that whole way of thinking was starting to be a norm. Did you have people still hustling? It might have been hustling, thinking about, right? And I do that, throw the fist up, because those were the things on the medallions: the black fist, the continent of African, right? We have, like you said, the X-hats.
Think about the popular movies, man. You had Spike Lee Do the Right Thing. You had School Days, which is a story that glorified black campuses. Different World glorified black campuses. The Cosby Show glorified black campuses, man.
A different world, right? The spinoff of the Cosby with the colleges is black colleges, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and so, but again, you eliminate that from the culture, and then that percentage that's going to be messed up, it's going to be messed up. And this is the point that I make, and I was making it to my daughter's principal, that point I talked about earlier, but I'll just say this to keep it short. There's going to be on both sides again, good, bad. Most of the people are going to be moderate. The influence, the context in which you present. So if I'm a football coach, or if I'm a teacher and I allow insurrection in my classroom, if I allow this bad voice to have a louder voice than this good voice, most are going to lean towards that. They just are. And it's the same thing that happens with music. If this is all I present, drill, now we got this, I don't even know what we're doing with the female rappers.
It's crazy.
But that's what we're gonna, most of the middle is gonna kind of, and even though you got the positive, well, we're going to start to shift this way towards this because it's close to you because it's given to you in a more steady diet. So that's the proximity breeds liking, and that's a psychological factor, and you do that. You can opt out of it, but again, most of us don't think enough to think outside the box.
The way that I'll say it is, we traded school days and house party. Well, let me say this. Let me say this. I'm talking about as far as pop. No, what was presented to us.
Right.
We were offered school days, do the right thing, house party, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? What's the film when they were higher learning? And then we were switched with Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood, Juice, New Jack City. And these are great films. These are iconic films, but y'all couldn't have put that focus.
They are iconic, For one, we was getting motion as a people in terms of getting on the screen, having major projects, and again, I liken it to music. Mm-hmm. The reason why New Jack City begat Boys in the Hood and Boys in the Hood begat Menace was because as a writer, as a producer, I look at what's successful before me, what was successful before me. As a musician, I mimic what was successful before me, and those things we can go back to like what the Wayans was doing and some of the comedy stuff, but that wasn't really major stuff, right? I'm gonna get you sucker, that type of stuff, right? But we were starting to get a foothold, and this is what the blueprint looks like. And so as a writer, as a producer, I'm gonna present this type of material because, again, I liken it to Car Crash. Car Crash is gonna get the attention, right? Poetic Justice wasn't really.
That was my movie too, man.
Right, but it wasn't high. You ask a lot of people, they're gonna see it once.
I got it on DVD.
Because it's not a real car crash. Yeah. Even though they put some car crash in there, it's not a real car crash. Like Boys in the Hood, like Menace, like New Jack City. That's a car wreck, right? But again, because proximity, right? The things that they present us, that we're presented with, we're more likely to like it than not. Most of us. That's one facet of it. Car crash is another facet. This is what I say by it's layered. But these things make you attenuate to certain things, and the control apparatus, knows it just as well as they can speak it better than I can speak it. I got some basic understanding of it, but the people who have governed and controlled societies and people over time know these human behavior characteristics and principles and know how to manipulate them and have the masses just kind of swaying. You always gonna have your outliers. You're always gonna have those for and those against, and they can think outside the box, but most of us are going to be swayed by narrative. You know what I mean? And then within that narrative, you're going to have some bad functioning people, right? Most people we know just want to party, and they just look ratchet. They ain't gonna do shit, go home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you're going to have one or two that's in there really functioning. But everybody else is just there to party, and they want to, like I said, it's not the most productive behavior, but it's what we're given. And what we're given in a steady diet is what we connect to. And that's what I said. When we had the little African medallions and the little exercise and we was starting to connect, oh no, that's off the table.
Yeah.
Enough of their power.
Yeah.
We got to keep you in a space that we can keep capitalizing. Your blackness has been commodified in a certain way. We got to keep you in that space so that we can keep capitalizing off of what people think you are and what should happen to people that look like you.
And our generation is suffering so much from they don't even understand how much of a lack they're in. They feel like they've got the newest, the most improved, and like we were talking about, just I don't want to use a crazy word. I was going to say something foul. I'm trying to censor myself in my mind as much as possible. But this generation is fucked, man. This generation is more ruined than ever, and this situation, like I said, with this kid and the music that we process, and even the media, what we letting our eye gates and ear gates and we're consuming is just it's harmful. It's poison. It's McDonald's, man.
That's it. What we're consuming. And the easiest way to cure all of those things you're talking about is change what the consumption is.
Yeah.
But we don't have, like I said, if I could put a fire stick in every black home, a jailbroke fire stick in every black home, I get you different results in 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm talking about, there's still going to be low functioning people. But the low functioning is not going to be, I'll change the narrative first of all, and then the low functioning is going to look different because the narrative has changed. And so what? And so from us killing each other to loving each other, which are two different extremes, you still have low functioning,
Mm-hmm.
right? In between there, but it'll look different because we'll be loving each other. And you won't be able to use the narrative that we kill each other, which again, most crimes when people commit crimes with people that live close to them. And we have segregated neighborhoods, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if you commit a crime, most white people commit crimes against whites, most blacks commit crimes against blacks, then that's just the way it is. You know, so it's interesting, man.
Yeah. So I think that, like I said, the continuation of it is just creating a love movement, man. Creating music that we love to hear, number one, but also that sounds good and is projecting love. You know what I mean? It ain't got to be on no sappy, corny-ish, man, but we need more of a balance, and just not only just R&B music or just soft music, but we need more of a balance in content. I remember listening to Anita Baker and how much she loved her man. I love Anita Baker, man. She got some joints to her. I just like to ride and listen to Sade or somebody sing to me for a minute. You know what I mean? Just a great vibe, and we're missing.
Music tames the savage.
Yeah,
beast,
music tames the savage beast, man. And I think that I want to challenge us to make music, man, and not just to make noise or make things that, you know,
take the easy way out.
Man. Use this cookie cutter approach. We have to start to make music. Before we get out of here, I'm gonna change subjects one more time, man. You could comment on this or not. I just got something to say to somebody, man, real quick. Hey, yo, Phil, put me on camera one, bro. Hey, check this out. To all you niggas who gathered around in the woods and y'all told people that Jesus was coming and you announced it, I'm glad you look crazy. If your prophecy is wrong, that means you ain't no prophet no more. So we as the elect, or we as the ones who are following the path of Yeshua, or who want to be on that path, I'm gonna play the bad guy for a minute. I'm gonna say, shut the fuck up. This go out to your pastor too. We sick of hearing from you. They said the rapture was coming on September 24th or the 25th, but the issue was you ain't read the book. He told you no man knows the day or the time. It literally says that. He tells you to watch for signs, but in Acts 1, it tells you don't be gazing up into heaven. He gonna return the same way he left. It says that you're gonna be able to see it from the east to the west. You're not gonna be able to mistake it. You ain't gonna have to go nowhere. And if he gathers you before, he gonna gather you. It's in the blink of an eye. Somebody gonna be working next to somebody and they ain't gonna be there no more. If you believe that interpretation, my point is this: stop spreading lies to people who don't read and who don't know any better and whom are seeking the truth. You foul for that. If you receiving money, if you doing anything to profit and gain off the Lord's word, you super foul. You need to be reckoned with. That's what I gotta say on that, man. If you got anything to say, I was just entertained by you niggas who gathered in the center of the woods.
Of course, I got something to say.
You know,
and
respectfully.
Respectfully, in the words of my other brother, you know, LAD, we always got something to say.
Shout out to the line.
We just always got something to say. And so I'll just keep it brief, and I'll just say this, man. You know, for those who follow men, just be cautious. And for those that follow a literature that has more versions than the versions of the kings of John Lamar on his wall, and you follow that literature, please understand that there's so many different versions because of the different interpretations, however small. I decided I need my own version. So again, honor your, and if you, like you said, understand that there's concrete things and certain, so yes, you won't know, or you can't predict, but you'll know when it happens. And I agree with you there. But don't get wrapped up in what men say, especially if these men don't follow the source.
Indeed.
And they follow a version because it fits, right? We need to be psychologically comfortable, so we find things to increase that. Again, these are big picture concepts. These aren't things that most people can sit and even ponder and have, right? It's hard to put these things together, but understand that. And the best way I can say it is, and if you've been in the studio, you see this wall, and I think it's one of the greatest things in the world. I want to kind of duplicate it. Might think we narcissists, right? But for me, like, you're a king 1,000 times over. And so all of these different versions of you, to me, represent these denominations, and the reason why they're separate, because there are different interpretations, and these interpretations fit the needs of whomever created these versions. So things get lost in translation. So bring it all the way back to the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that's what I got to say.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Before I end this episode, I want to say rest in peace to a couple people. Number one, Big Rico, Marcus Jones, Barthav, El Blaga. You was a real one, my guy. Definitely worth being celebrated. I know your sister's gonna miss you. I know your whole family gonna miss you. Your whole neighborhood, you loved your whole hood you put on. And you was definitely that. You was definitely who you said you were. I ain't gonna front like we was best friends and nothing like that. Like, I knew you like a brother. Like, that's my cousin's baby mama's little brother. And I knew him since he was 10 years old, and he always been genuine and solid and a good dude, and a real one. And I was heartbroken when I heard that you passed away, man. So always love, man. Always big salute to you, Marcus, man. Like, I'm still tripping off that. Rest in peace and blessings to your family, man. Shout out to the Jones family. Shout out to Nina, Courtney, Tabitha, Millie, my little Brooklyn chain. Everybody over there that, all your peoples, man. Keisha, forgive me. Your pops. Yeah, man, that was a tough one. And you will be missed. I also want to say rest in peace to Mr. Terry Odenwest. I remember working with you at ABC Warehouse. You was one cool dude, man. You was like the assistant manager. He didn't even speak to me the first month or the couple months I was there. And I was like, Terry, why you ain't talk to me for the first couple months I was there? He's like, I ain't know if you're gonna make it or not. But you're here now. You know what I mean? Like, he used to call JT Trupke, he used to call him Spicoli, man. Spicoli. You're killing me, Smalls. You know what I mean? If you know JT and you know the character from Fast Times and Ridgemont High, you're gonna crack up laughing. But Terry was a cool dude, man. We had a lot of great times together. At one point in time, he was my manager. At one point in time, I was his manager. And he was just a cool dude, man. Taught me a lot about sales, and you will be missed, man. Condolences to your family. And lastly, for this episode, I want to say rest in peace to my neighbor that stayed behind me, Ray O'Laughlin. He's got a masterful TED Talk that if you are ever in need of motivation or in need of encouragement, go check out, because he left a legacy. The first time I ever met the man, I was in my backyard and I threw my football. I was throwing my football at this little target and it went over the gate. And he was kind of like, exactly like Wilson, you know what I'm saying? He popped over the gate and threw me my football back, and he said, if you got a second, I got something that's going to change your life. I wrote a book, it's going to change your life. And I was thinking, okay. And then he went around and got the book, and sure enough, your book changed my life. I mean, from the first word to the last word, it was absolutely phenomenal. I watched your TED Talk over and over again, and I miss you, you know what I mean? And I knew, I felt you when, like, my daughter's ball went over the gate. My ball went over the gate and it didn't pop back over. So yeah, man, your short amount of time with me was so impactful, and you left a legacy. And I want the people to know, if anybody needs any encouragement, go check that video out, that TED Talk. You were a beautiful man, a beautiful person. Rest in peace to you. And I'm gonna check out. You got anything to say before we go, bro?
R.I.P. to my brother-in-law, Ellis Williams, better known as Poo Poo, ODFL. Just a super genuine dude, biggest heart. You wanted me, so R.I.P. Poo Poo. Miss you, bro. Love you.
Yeah, we lost a lot, man.
We'll see you. I know you up there resting well. So
yeah, we're gonna end it on that note. Gone but not forgotten. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's the communion. Take me out, Phil.
Do you understand me?